All right, so we're on holding by Pirke Avos, ethics for fathers, that is known. Again, when we're on holding by Pirke Avos, ethics for fathers, we are holding by chapter 2, Mishna 15. This is part 3, and probably part 4, and part 5, part 6, as we work our way through. So we're still working our way through the beginning. The beginning says, they said each one said 3 things. Rabbi Lezer says, let your fellows' honor be as dear to you as your own, do not anger easily. So we're speaking about this idea that a person's honor should be like their own. In other words, what you would want to do to yourself, you should do for others, right? Even though we mentioned before, that, when it comes to loving someone, right, we don't love anyone more than ourselves in general, right? The Gemara says that person gets married, a spouse has to love his spouse more than they do themselves. Right? The husband has to love his wife more than himself. Right? Which we ask the question, it's almost seemingly impossible. Right? Nobody loves more than anyone, than themselves. So we sort of spoke about that as well. It comes along with the great commentaries on the Mishna, the Tosafos Yontiv. And Tosafos Yontiv explains, what does it mean to honor your friends shall be dear to you as your own? So it depends. Now, this is going to be an interesting thing. Going to need further clarification. And that is, what is your own honor? Right? What is the person's honor themselves? How do they look at themselves? Right? We spoke last week about this idea that a person can be despised in their own eyes. They can have no self-esteem. They can think they're a piece of dirt because everyone told them they're a piece of dirt. Right? Everyone told them never amount to anything. Right? That could be. That could be. So, we sort of spoke about that, in depth. A person can't be despised. Or how do you deal with the fact if you have little self-esteem? Etc. But here, the Tosafos Yontiv says an interesting thing. He says, what's the honor of yourself? How does a person look at themselves? So he says, if a person looks at themselves in a good way, and it's important for them, i.e. to look in that way, to have proper self-esteem, not gaiva, not being conceited, right? This will lead us down a slippery slope, because I know someone's going to ask, but how do you stop from being gaivadik? How would you stop having, being conceited in such a way? That's going to be the obvious question, because if you have too much self-esteem, that's what's going to happen. Seemingly, it's going to happen. Right? It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be per se. But if a person thinks of themselves in a good way, doesn't mean they're conceited. They like who they are. Doesn't mean they don't have faults. Doesn't mean, they're perfect by any stretch. At the end of the day, they feel good about themselves. Right? So let's say they have little self-esteem. Don't have to be a ton of self-esteem. But at the same time, they're not despised in their own eyes. So over here, a person thinks of themselves in a good way. They have a certain level of self-esteem, let's say. So that makes them feel good. Then they can give it to others. Then they can give that over to others. Problem is, someone walks around with doom and gloom. Someone who's always depressed, or not always depressed, but they don't think good things of themselves. Now, this could be for any number of reasons. Right? One reason is because everyone else put them down. So if everyone else puts them down, why should they think they have any good quality? Right? So, a person can say sticks and stones. They can say, what does it matter what someone says? Doesn't really matter. But deep down, people get hurt. It's understandable. People for sure can get hurt. By what other people say. So over here, Rabbi Lezer says, let your fellow's honor be as dear to you as your own. Meaning, if you feel good about yourself, says Tosafos Yontiv, you feel good about yourself, you feel things are good, I can give that over to others. I can bestow it over to others, right? If you feel like a piece of dirt all the time, you have no self-esteem or very little self-esteem, then what honor are you going to give to someone else? In other words, how are you going to feel good enough about yourself to honor others? Now, you could say there are some people, even if I don't have honor for myself, they deserve to be honored, right? Rabbinic authorities deserve to be honored, right? Obviously, they deserve honor. There are people who deserve honor, okay. A person in the synagogue, Sefer Torah comes out, you're not going to honor the Sefer Torah? You stand up. You stand up for the honor of Sefer Torah. Doesn't matter what you feel during that time. Doesn't matter how much you feel like a piece of dirt and other things. Relevant. Certain things require honor by itself, regardless of what I feel or don't feel. This is kind of hard. Maybe, God forbid, a person bears a grudge against someone. Yeah. Someone bears a grudge against someone, even though they deserve to be honored. Right? Let's say a rabbi did a terrible thing. Let's say. Happens. People are, not foolproof. Doesn't mean they always do what they're supposed to do. Can some people abuse power? Yeah. Seriously abuse power? Yes. Is that what God wants? Certainly not. A person like that has to be respected. That's a different issue. That's a different issue. Again, it doesn't make us perfect. It doesn't make people perfect. But what do you do? Something like that gets caught doing something. Yeah, it happens. Probably happens too much. Even if it's a little bit, happens too much. Orthodox Jews have to be squeaky clean. 100%, they have to be squeaky clean. Right? But when someone who's a person of authority does something wrong, then there's a whole question here. What about the knowledge they have? Let's say they have world-class Torah knowledge. Okay. Well, let's say they get caught doing something. Fraud. Right? We'll bring up fraud. They get caught up in money. Does that mean, you take away everything they knew? Right? This is a fundamental question. I had a discussion, with a friend of mine a few weeks ago, about this. Right? There's a fundamental question. I think I brought this up before, but we'll bring it up again. There's a fundamental question. Fundamental question is, someone does something wrong. Someone writes a book, let's say about anger. Someone writes a book about anger. What happens? They get angry. They might have ruined their kids in the process. But the person writes his book on anger. Now, what is it now? I could look at it one of two ways. I could say, even though what the person should have done, what he should have done, he didn't do. Right? In other words, gave into anger, gave into his evil inclination, maybe ruined his family or some of his kids or whatever. That's pretty bad. I would agree. 100% that's bad. Now, if you wrote a book, let's say you wrote a book about anger, would I buy the book? So the question is, how do you look at it? Do you look at the fact that even though the person worked on it themselves, but the work is good, let's say, he gives good advice, he's got good parables, he's got good sources, but he himself was not able, or she was not able to live up to it, and they failed. Now, does that mean the person themselves should never speak about the topic? It makes them a total failure? Or does it mean the fact that they failed in such a thing doesn't mean the material is not good? Now, normally we would say, even if it's innocuous, even if a person, let's say, wrote books of fiction, maybe inspirational stories, all kinds of things, let's say, what happens? Person gets accused of all kinds of things. So now The question is, you have to read the books. You're going to say, my kesher. What's the connection? Why should it be so bad? First, I might have done X, Y, and Z, whatever it is. So do we say, well, this person obviously is not upholding Torah and mitzvahs the way they should. Makes them look really bad. So why should I read their stuff? Why should I read their stuff? Does it make them into a heretic? Might not be heretical things they're writing. But see, we use a non-Jew as an example. You can use a Jew also. Right? We'll use a non-Jew as an example. Take Aristotle. Aristotle, person studies philosophy. Early philosophy, who they study? Plato, Aristotle, one of the greatest thinkers, the Rambam says, others as well, one of the greatest thinkers of all time. I don't think most people would disagree. But see, there's a problem with Aristotle. Forget about how he looks at the world, and belief in God and all that. That could be an issue. I'm not even talking about that. What's the issue with Aristotle? Aristotle had pretty disgusting character traits. So I could say, right, his students caught him doing certain things. So they asked him, how could you, the great Aristotle, the great philosopher, do this? So he said, Aristotle, the philosopher, Aristotle does other things, okay? Right, Judaism holds you can't compartmentalize. You got to live what you believe. You got to live what you teach. You can't be Bertrand Russell and teach ethics and be unethical. That's contradiction in terms. That's a contradiction in terms. He said the same thing. Students asked him, how can you teach ethics and be so unethical? And he said, if I'm taught mathematics, expect me to be a square. So what if I'm not perfect and I make mistakes, I'm unethical? What do I care? What do you care? I'm teaching ethics. I'm giving over the material. I get the ability to give over the material, this, that, okay. So the question is, would you listen to somebody teach ethics who's unethical? Would you listen to someone who might be one of the greatest thinkers of all time? Would you listen to what he thinks about the world and about politics and whatever goes on? Right? Why would I listen to him? Right? Very few people say that. Certainly not in the secular world. Secular world, they're not going to look at it that way. They're going to say he's the greatest philosopher of all time. Let's say. Put him on the pedestal. Put him at the top. Greatest secular philosophers of all time. Okay. Character traits, abysmal. Abysmal. Does that take away from what he wrote? One thing has nothing to do with the other, they would say. There's exactly what he said. There's Aristotle, the philosopher, brilliant person, brilliant ideas for all time. There's Aristotle, the other person does other things. See, we in the Torah world have a problem. I mean, some problems. Yeah, we have a problem with this. What's the problem? What's the obvious problem? How can you be a philosopher, quote unquote, be one of the greatest minds, at the same time be steeped in the garbage? We do not compartmentalize. We don't say you can be a good philosopher and then do whatever you want. We don't say you can believe in Torah mitzvahs and do whatever you want. Doesn't go. Right? There's a story a couple of years back, with a Jewish author, famous Jewish author. Also got, people came out of the woodwork saying what he did. Terrible things. Absolutely terrible things. Right? So then there was a question. What do you do with his books? His books are good messages. Did you just throw out his books? So there was a very strong claim. Yes. Why? Because you don't want anyone to admire such a person who's steeped in the garbage. And this person, well steeped in the garbage. in many ways. Right? So there was a very strong side to say, get rid of his stuff. Bookstores took his books off the shelf. More of anything, they don't want to be associated with such a person. Now, the other argument is, okay, this person did bad things, right? Did bad things, really bad things. But his books have good value, good messages. They have good value, good messages, right? Some would say maybe a few of them, you could see from what he wrote, different things. But it's already after the fact. Well, after the fact. Okay, but let's just say, for argument's sake, most of the books were good. Do I care what the author did? And obviously, many rabbinic authorities said yes. We absolutely care what they did. Therefore, there was a huge call, take the books, get rid of them. Get rid of them. Because you don't want something like that giving that message. You don't want to support somebody like that, even if the message is good. Yeah. So that's the other side of the argument. So a friend of mine would say, if this person didn't work on anger, well, they're trying to help other people work on anger. Just because they failed, does that mean the book is bad? Now, I would say it looks kind of bad. Could look bad. Because the person didn't do it in their own right, why should I listen to what they say? That's the argument. Which my argument was, not necessarily mean the book is bad. It means the person failed. True. Person failed in this aspect. That I don't disagree with. Right? Doesn't mean the message is bad. But I would make one caveat, and this is a very slippery slope here. But I would make one caveat and say it depends what the person did. Yeah, I'm not necessarily going to throw someone out 100% because, they failed in certain ways. If you tell me the person's a heretic, person did other things, that I could hear. They didn't take the books and you rip them up. That I hear. And you don't listen to such a person. That I get. But even if they made mistakes, let's say, they made mistakes. Could have made serious mistakes, let's say, with their kids. Could be. Does that necessarily mean the book is bad? Right? So what's the argument? If the person couldn't withstand it and did all the wrong things, why should I read what he says? Good point. Good point. My simple argument was it doesn't necessarily mean the book is bad. Doesn't mean that. The person had his own failure. How many psychologists out there might be good at what they do and their family life is a wreck? Does that mean they're not good psychologists? So you see what goes on in their own personal lives. It depends what it is. But you're going based on their reputation, what they do. Personal life, if it gets out there and it's really bad, you won't go back to them, okay? Psychologists have, their own issues, different things. Some of them not qualified. Some of them make it cultish in certain ways. I've been reading a whole bunch of articles about it recently. Some people just ruin their marriages, ruin friendships because it's like a cult-like relationship. But there are a lot of red flags, but that's not even the topic here. I don't want to get, too far off. But the point is that someone who's a Talmud Chacham, someone who's a rabbinic scholar, what you see is what you get. What you see on the outside is what's on their inside, unless proven otherwise. Yeah. Person can talk a good game, be totally different from what they do. Yeah, okay. We're not, digging into people's past here. But, no one's saying anyone's perfect, by any stretch. You got to see what a person says. if they say things that are heretical, yeah, gotta knock them out. Can't listen to them. Right? Person who listens to a rabbi has to be in their eyes, like they're an angel. The Gemara says, no one's perfect. No one's an angel. People can make mistakes. True. That's how they have to be viewed. Now, what about every other person? Maybe not at that level. Okay. People on a lot of different levels. Some people strive better in this and less in that. And, this week's Parsha, beginning of the Parsha, talks about, where a person treads on things that are quote unquote minor. What does it mean, minor? They're careful about major transgressions, but minor things, they look the other way. People would say, how can that be? How can they tread on minor things? It means they don't have any fear of heaven, right? In other words, if I know this mitzvah is weighted at 1,000, this other mitzvah is weighted at 10. What's the mitzvah you're going to do more? The one that's weighted 1,000, but don't I have to do the one that's weighted 10 also? Yeah. So we know what to stay away from. We know what the major transgressions are. Liable for a death penalty or being spiritually cut off. Okay. Laws of Shabbos, person going to be careful. Immorality, person will be careful. Idolatry, person will be careful. Lashon hara, more than 30 prohibitions in one shot, maybe not so careful. Even though they know it's a major transgression. So Rebbe would say, if that's the case, and they're not careful about small things, it means they don't care. It means they care much less. How can we say they have fear of heaven on big things? You got to care about the whole picture. Right? We're going to see at some point, got to take care of, my possessions and be careful not to damage someone else. Mitzvahs between man and man. Got to be careful. What, a person's got to be righteous only in the eyes of God, not in the eyes of man? Problem. Serious problem. Right? So a person has to have a certain level of self-esteem. You want to give it over in a good way, okay, but you have to feel good inside. Right? Which deal with this question now. Somebody asks, but how do you love yourself? Why shouldn't you love yourself? Why shouldn't we love ourselves? Big mistake not to love yourself. Why do I say big mistake? If you don't love yourself, then why would you help others? Why would you do anything good? You feel, we mentioned last week, person perceives themselves as being bad. So if you're bad and you don't deserve honor, why should you honor someone else? Right? You got to feel good about yourself. We do positive things. There's got to be positive reinforcement. Right? Someone wants to say, well, it's much easier to love, honor, and respect others. I don't know. If you don't love yourself, it's going to be harder. I would think it's going to be harder. Why? Because if you don't feel good about yourself, first say, why should I feel good about others? Why should I feel good about others? I want to help others. Why do they deserve? I should help them. What's going to come up? Jealousy. Person be jealous. They're married. I'm not married. They have kids. I don't have kids. They have better livelihood than I do. So yeah, they may need a favor or something. Why should I help them? Now, I would say in other ways, it might be easier, in that sense, because you got a person, let's say, who helps others tremendously, and they're never home. Yeah. So it looks good on the outside. Look, they're doing this for these people, they're doing that for other people, all kinds of things, but they're not doing at home. Acts of loving kindness start at home. Doesn't mean a person can't help others, but at what expense? Right? At what expense? So what's the simple answer? Does the person make mistakes? Yes. Can we make a lot of mistakes? Yes. How do we look at what we do? A person makes this, if a person, is a perfectionist, any little mistake they make, they're in trouble. They're going to get angry. Why did I make this mistake? Why did I do this? We also make the mistake and think, oh, see, this family, the kids are dressed impeccably. Everything looks good on the outside. It could be a disaster inside. We don't know what goes on behind closed doors. Nobody knows. Right? You have no idea what other people are going through. But I would say a major red flag is the fact that, a person can be helping the world, they're not helping themselves, meaning not helping the family. Now, can you do both? You can do both. You definitely can do both, but, there has to be some level of balance. Now, if the family's behind what you do, and you're out most of the time and this and that, let's say for some of their organizations, could be on Shabbos, a festival, this and that, someone sick, die emergency, a person goes out. Family has to be prepared for that. Everyone has to be together on it. The person's doing it like it's a macho thing or whatever. They're doing it to look good, or even if they enjoy it and they get a rush from it or whatever, and they're helping others. Yeah, but they don't spend any time with their family. They're not interested in spending time with the family. That's a problem. That's a cop-out. In other words, you're helping everybody else. You're not helping yourself. And your family gets nothing. That's bad. 100%, that's bad. I'm not saying people are doing that. I'm just saying that could happen. That for sure could happen. Right? So a friend of mine would say, we live in a cream puff generation. That's true. Where there's tremendous lack of self-esteem. That I agree. But see, nobody is that bad. The evil inclination destroys us. Right? Wants to make us feel, oh, you did that, you made a mistake with this, you made a mistake with that. I had something the other day. Something happened, whatever it was. I said to myself, I can't believe this would happen. The opposite of what you wanted to do. Yeah, we gotta be careful. We have good intention, hopefully. And our good intention could get blown out of the water because you did something wrong. And then what do you have? Nothing. Well, you tried to do good, just the opposite. Now, at that point, I wasn't about to let the evil inclination destroy me and say, see, look, you tried this, you failed. Tried that, you failed. Right? Even with the best intention, right? Evil inclination comes with a sledgehammer. I said, I'm not playing, ain't getting me on that. Okay. Didn't go exactly as I planned. Okay. Also means we're human, yeah. But next time around, you want to fix that. I did my best to fix it straight away. Not everything goes the way we planned, right? But at the end of the day, a person themselves, they have to feel good about themselves. Even something minor. We're not going to build ourselves up to have big egos. Maybe some people, but a person can definitely feel good about themselves. And they should have things they feel good about. What they do. Now, some people would say, I get hammered this way, get hammered that way. I mentioned on Thursday, right before I did my Q&A, I got hammered, slaughtered. Was called the Taliban. Called the fanatic, among other things. And backwards and ignorant. That's really good for my Q&A. Very therapeutic, get it out there. I mean, I know where it's coming from. I understand. There's a lot of animosity to Orthodox Jews. And the right-wing people also, but Orthodox Jews as well. So I understand. You see, if I was by myself, I couldn't defend myself. I had nothing to say. Oh, thank God I have what to say. But, and everyone gangs up on it. Yeah, you're a fanatic. Let's say there were 10 people there. Right? This is over the phone. So there's only 2 of us. But let's say there were 10 people on the other side agreeing with this other person. Now, you need a lot of strength over here. You need to be able to say these people are nothing. They don't know anything. Just say, what? Your schools don't teach higher mathematics? Like, what is that? Like, they're going to be backwards. They're never going to know anything. And if they don't know calculus, which is my answer, and if they don't know calculus, and they never studied high mathematics, they got to be educated. Who says they're not being educated? We understand they're being educated in the best way possible. And if they want to get a degree, whatever, if they need to get a degree, very good. Okay. So if they study some of this, they'll study it. Do they need it? They don't need it. In most cases, the single biggest lie that there is, put in the top 5, as I mentioned. Yeah, they don't like my answer. It's like going like this, talking like this. No, talking at each other, not to each other. I've been in situations like this, not the first time. We have a whole group of people. Remember, I'll give you another example. I was around a whole bunch of secular Jews and non-Jews, mostly Jews. Yeah, in a certain situation. And I had a relative, an elder relative, female, hadn't seen in many years, wanted to come and give me a hug. So I took 2 steps back, said, sorry, And I heard someone say under their breath, come on, it's an old woman, like, what do you crave? Like, whatever, like a nasty comment. Like I was deaf. Wasn't like there weren't other people around. No, it didn't escalate. That's where it ended. But imagine if all these other people started chiming in. Come on. This is not the 1950s. This is insane. This is a relative. All I want to do is give you a hug. What's so bad? Some say you're going to die first. That's how bad it is. Doesn't matter. No matter how old they are. Could be 102 years old and dried up like a prune. What's the difference? Forbidden. Forbidden relationships. You can't hug the other person. That's it. Nothing to talk about. Right? Now let's say that conversation would have come up. Let's say. Bunch of other people. I would have stuck to my guns and that would have been it. People would have made comments, I'm sure. Oh, come on, you really believe that? Come on. You're being brainwashed, come on. Now, if I was meek and I haven't, any self-esteem at all, yeah, that can be demoralizing. Totally demoralizing. But you know what? I know where they're coming from. I know exactly why it's being said. Someone's going to say, did it get under your skin? Yeah, maybe a little bit. I played it off and that was the end of it. Couldn't that make you feel bad? Couldn't that make you second guess? Couldn't that make you say, wow, the Torah's so fanatical, why can't you just do it? It'll be a sanctification of God's name. Why not? Why are you getting so uptight? Forget about what this other, great rabbinic authority say. Don't worry about it. Make everyone else feel good. What are you doing in a situation? You can't do that. And you're going to pay a price. You're going to pay a price over here. Now, isn't that demoralizing? Isn't that demoralizing knowing they don't have your back? They're going to nitpick. They're going to say it's backwards. They're going to say it's ignorant. Oh, yeah, it's annoying. It's annoying. So then you're going to ask the question. So what does God want from me in this situation? I'll tell you what God wants. He wants you to sanctify his name in that situation. You don't yell, you don't scream. You try and blow it off, and that's it. And you try and get out of it as much as you can. So in that case, okay, that was the end of the story. Story didn't go further than that. I didn't get any repercussions for it. That was it. Now, deep down, you can say it's offensive. And there are other people. Look at all the other people there that saw this happen. Whether like anyone was oblivious, people saw it happen. Okay? Did I feel bad? There's nothing I could do. But see, if I was much younger, certainly less wise, could have made a whole big thing about it. What do you know about Torah mitzvahs anyway? You never learned anything. You don't know Hebrew. You can't read. It's about when you feel uncomfortable. I could have used 100 arguments. 100 arguments. But see, if I would have raised the tone of my voice and said, I get upset, yelling and screaming, there's that. Right? You lose the effect. But at the same time, what are you thinking? What should you be thinking? Exactly that. Like, what do you know about anything? You're going to sit there and hammer me? Okay, hammer me. Some other people wouldn't know what to answer. Even if they didn't know what to answer, they say this is what the Torah says. And that's it. But they may crumble in the process. Why are they going to crumble? They feel bad. Here it is. Cousin, a great aunt, whatever. You want to give them as much respect as possible. What can you do? The Torah is not a pretzel. The Torah is not a pretzel. So what are you supposed to do? Damage control. That's what I say about my own life. The only thing I can do is damage control. How much damage am I going to cause by doing nothing or saying nothing? Now, so this happens 15 years ago. Well, a little more than 15 years ago. Now, looking back on it today, what would my answer be? How would I view it? I view it in a very simple way. And that is, you're looking at somebody or many people that are insane. That's my mantra. They are insane. Am I going to answer an insane person? I mean, you might have to. Since they don't keep Torah mitzvahs, it's like they're insane. That's why I have to look at it. You have to look at it like somebody's mentally challenged. Someone who's mentally challenged, if they slobber on you, they push you out of the way, they do other things, doesn't give them a right to. But if they do other things that are wrong, guess what? They're mentally challenged. It's annoying. You could say something, you shouldn't be doing this. Some people, I just read a article and different people answered this article about, just because someone's mentally challenged doesn't give them free reign, to do certain things. You're allowed to speak up just because they're mentally challenged doesn't matter. See them grabbing a food, say, I don't think that's how we should act. You're allowed to say that. Some people, this person would say, well, people are afraid to say that because they're mentally challenged. And okay, that doesn't mean they can do whatever they want, per se. But see, we get caught up in this. I mention this all the time. We get caught up in this. But it was a family member. It was a parent. It was a child. It was a sibling. Okay. Painful. I'm not going to say it's not painful, but you have to see where it comes from. You have to, person yelling, screaming at me. I mean, they have life in them. Person's 95 years old. Most other people could care less what I do. They just think you're a fanatic anyway. Finish. This person's got a little bit of spunk. It bothers them. They got, something inside of them bothers them. Why would religious Jews not teach their kids higher mathematics? Because it doesn't matter. That's what I said. It doesn't matter. Show me high mathematics when I have a degree. It's going to help me get a job. Show me. People are brainwashed. I said most of the world is brainwashed. I got that in. I said it's one of the top 5 things I would say my opinion, are the most ludicrous things ever said in the history of man. That don't make any sense. That's one of them. And today it's been proven, beyond the shadow of a doubt, a secular degree does not guarantee making a living. It doesn't. People throw that out. You can have a degree. I know plenty of people making good money without degrees. Right? So they say someone's got a degree, they know how to write a little bit better. Maybe. They know how to do a few other things, maybe a little bit better, maybe. A friend of mine, parents own a liquor business. Yeah. They own a liquor business, going into the liquor business. So he went to a business university, Suffolk University, anyone from Boston knows. Suffolk University, a business university. Right? So I asked him, he was there for 4 years. 4 years took classes. So I asked him, he went into business, how many of these classes? This is secular Jew. Secular Jew. Yeah, doesn't keep Shabbos, doesn't keep kosher, nothing. I mean, goes to synagogue on the high holy days. I mean, he's very Jewish in other ways. Very pro-Israel, different things, okay. But, I asked point blank, did any of these classes help you in business? Out of 4 years. He told me, tongue in cheek, maybe 2. Spending that kind of money in university, 2 classes helped him. You get a liberal arts degree. What are you going to use it for? So they say, oh, you like history, you probably teach history. I mean, didn't do it, I didn't go further. I just finished my degree because my parents wanted me to finish it. But again, it's a huge lie. But I threw this out there. It's relative. I said, you understand, it's a big lie. It doesn't matter. No, you got to be educated. And if you're not educated, you don't have a degree, as if to say, you're ignorant. Not just you're ignorant, you're backwards. You're backwards. Now, most employers of Orthodox Jews today, if they've been learning for a long time, they get a degree, they don't get a degree, whatever it is, they see they have the ability to analyze because of how they learned. Everybody sees it. That's where it comes from. Spending hours and hours going through picayune detail. So they'll say that's ignorance because I don't know Chaucer. I never heard Mozart. And makes me a worse person. Makes me backwards. Makes me ignorant. People said it. I've heard worse things. So you can say, oh, but you've gone through this for many years. You got all these answers. Nobody wants to hear the answers. Get it? This person wasn't interested in my answers. I got a few out there. And then I got hung up on. Right? At the end, like, oh, whatever. Bye. Right? They didn't like what I said. Why didn't they like what I said? Hit a raw nerve. Because I got in a few things, just only a few, to get them to think. I said, but this isn't true, right? They make very strong statements. Basically, you're ignorant, you're backwards because you don't have, I have a degree. Okay. My wife has a degree. Okay. One of my kids also has a degree. But I had to get a degree for something else. Fine. Make them better, makes us better, makes us quote unquote more intelligent. No, we're being more intelligent. They know a little bit about our history, study a little bit of sociology. Torah mitzvah isn't learning that. Oh, that's backwards. That's being you want to talk about brainwashing? Let's define brainwashing. I didn't even go there. Right? I knew I wouldn't get there. But at the end of the day, now someone will ask. Let's see if someone asked it here before I even ask. Someone here points out, I wasn't going to say that, but someone here points out, just like Abraham's on the other side of the world, right? You're fighting the world. And secular people look like you're crazy. And these righteous people are crazy. Right? So what was I going to say? Right? Someone would ask, well, does it make you feel bad? I mean, I use psychology for myself. I got it out. I spoke about it on my Q&A. Yeah, because I wanted people to see how foolish this is. Now, what would I thought someone was going to ask? Did it make you feel bad? Did it make you feel like a piece of dirt? No. First of all, I know where this person's coming from, right? Blowing off a lot of steam. Okay. But at the end of the day, I have enough strength in myself and what I'm doing and Emunah that, yeah, it's all a bunch of garbage. I didn't even wince. Didn't lose any sleep over it. Got, a few chuckles out of it and different things. But that was it. Now, someone will say that's different. Okay, it's a distant relative, let's say. Okay. What if it was a parent? What if a child said, I'm sick of these stupid laws. I don't want to keep that. So you're going to say it's painful to see. You're right. You have to see where it's coming from. Yeah, but at the same time, I wish I would have known this, many years ago. Because what people say don't matter. It doesn't matter because where are they coming from? The biggest question they may ever ask in their life, ketchup, mustard, or ketchup, mustard, or relish on a hot dog. They're holding nowhere in the world. They're insane. So this, I laugh more than anything else. I'm going to get under my skin. Wasn't painful. It's sad. It's sad. I think it's sad. I don't think there's any question. But you have to see where the argument, comes from. So why did I tell all that? Because I'm allowed to feel good about myself, my relationship with God, and what I have to work on and all that. And we know we're right. We know we're going in the right path. But comes along the evil inclination and wants to put a dent in us. Wants to put a little bit of chink in the armor. Puts a dent. Is it really true? Look at what all these people were saying. How could the whole rest of the world be wrong? And that's what I hit at the age of 20. I said I had to see how Orthodox Jews live and what it is. Right? I came to one of two conclusions. Either the rest of the world is right, and I'm totally messed up. I need to see a shrink, which I may have to anyway. Right? Or Torah is true and everyone else is wrong. Now, that's a big thing to say. Got to get big shoulders to say that the whole rest of the world is whacked. Got to have a little bit of ego to say that. Right? It's not a question here to prove why we think we're right and no one else is right. A different issue. Yeah, I hit that at the age of 20. Yeah, this is a long time ago. Before I could even grow a beard. Yeah. So at the end of the day, when I went to yeshiva, what happened? I realized the whole rest of the world is whacked. Right? People say, I got brainwashed. It was a cult. It was this. Yeah, whatever. Neither of those cases. So what's the bottom line? Bottom line is we live in a messed up world. And if I would have been at this place and 20 people would have hammered me on this, I would have had what to say. It would have been pleasant. And people would have walked away and said, wow, I was brainwashed. Totally brainwashed. It used to be like us, not like us anymore. People would have made all kinds of comments. Okay. Would that stop me from putting on tefillin in the morning? No. Would that stop me from keeping kosher? No. Was it unpleasant? It's unpleasant. Okay. Unpleasant. Not going to deny it, No one wants to necessarily be in a situation like that. But at the end of the day, you stay strong to what you believe. You let people say what they want. I got people to this day. Will say, yeah, he's crazy, he's this, he's that. Okay. Not going to change them. Not going to change me by any stretch. Okay. It's a stalemate. What can you do? You got to move on. At some point, you got to move on. Can't let it get to you. Doesn't matter who says it. Doesn't matter what they say. So we have to feel good about ourselves. That's the question. How do you feel good about yourself? Understand you're going to the right path. Understanding you're trying the best of your ability to do the right thing. And that's what you're doing. Does that make you perfect? No. I have something till this day. It hasn't come up in a while. I shouldn't open my mouth. Probably come up tomorrow. Right? But, I made a statement. And I said, I feel like X. I didn't say I was X. Very careful what I said. Person, oh, you said this? No, I didn't say that. I said, I feel like this. To this day, 20 years later, more, sometimes that conversation comes up again. I'll never win. It's a lose-lose situation. They're going to say, you said this. I'm going to say, I didn't say it. I said like this. Now, the truth is, I shouldn't have said it. That's the truth. Okay, but the statement was made. Figured, it was safe enough to say. In the context. But obviously, I got hammered for it. And when that conversation comes up, I'll never win it. Okay? I didn't move on. But you once said, this is 20 years later. There are things we can say, things we've done can still have repercussions later. But at the end of the day, a person has to have a certain level of self-esteem. I have to have a certain level of self-esteem. The evil inclination will say, not that way. See, they're making fun of you, someone else is making fun of you. They'll say you're backwards. Maybe I am. Maybe. Maybe we're all backwards. Maybe we all, ate some hallucinogenic mushroom. I don't know. Maybe that's the case. But we're connecting to a tradition that goes back more than 3,000 years. So we're reconnecting to that. I used that as an argument once and then went right over someone's head. Said, you've changed. I said, I haven't changed. I said, I'm reconnecting to a link in a chain that goes back 3,000 years. That chain got broken, and a lot of my family's chain got broken. How? America. Into America. Yeah, so who changed? That argument went nowhere. I thought it was a good argument. Went nowhere. People want to hear what they want to hear. Right? Bottom line. Bottom line. So a person has to have a certain level of self-esteem. So you got to be careful. You can't say, well, I think I'm God's gift to the world because I keep Torah mitzvahs and I'm working hard, regardless if I make mistakes or not, this, that, I repent, I work hard. You can have a certain chip on your shoulder. But you got to be careful that your person doesn't become arrogant. And even if someone would say, oh, you think you're right, that's arrogance. That's not arrogance. Right? You have to understand what people say. Just because what they say doesn't mean what they say is true. You can be very confident. I told someone this a while ago. I have no doubts the Torah is true. None. Absolutely zero. A person could say, wow, you really think you're no. That's arrogance. No, not arrogance. I made a statement, said, and I've been learning the last 30 years. You would think I would know something about the religion. Learned a lot of its ancient texts, a lot. Got plenty what to learn still. You don't want to argue with a PhD, do you? People hear what they want to hear. People say all kinds of things. They don't know anything, right? One of my pet peeves. Okay. I can feel good about what I do. Now, does that mean I don't have any room to grow? Absolutely not. Does it mean I know everything? No. Definitely doesn't mean that. At the same time, we're all work in progress. But if I don't feel good about myself, what's going to happen? The evil inclination will destroy you. That's exactly what will happen. The evil inclination will destroy you. Because the evil inclination is going to say, see, you made this mistake. See, you made that mistake. See, People say, oh, you think you're right. I do. You want proof? No. That's not arrogance. Right? People dress it up and say things which is just totally not true. And then we feel all bad that we do something wrong. No. You defend it. I'll give you an example. Person defends the Torah. I think the Torah is anti-women. Well, is the Torah anti-women? No. Can I explain feminism according to the Torah? Yes. Are they going to hear it? No. I think the Torah is anti-pig. Okay, Torah says certain things you can eat. Is that desecration of God's name? No. Why not? What are they saying? I don't like this, I don't like that. Well, it's your fault. The Torah is what it is. God spoke to Moshe saying, pass it down. Oh, you really believe that? Oh, there's a lot of proof. I'll tell you what. No. That's backwards. That's backwards. People don't want to hear anything. So you defend the Torah. You're going to say it makes it worse. Okay, so don't have the discussion. But they can't say, you're a racist. You're anti-non-Jews. Well, I have against non-Jews, except if, a Jew marries them. It's not the non-Jew's fault. It's the Jew's fault for marrying them. Torah says it's a problem. It's forbidden. You're not allowed to hate the person in your heart. You can hate what they do. You can't necessarily hate them in their heart, in your heart. Well, for goodness sakes, either there's a right way or a wrong way. I've heard people tell me also. That's your opinion. Again, did God speak on Mount Sinai or not? Irrelevant. It's not irrelevant. If the Torah is true, I have to keep it. If it's not true and it's fantasy, I don't have to keep it. That's the bottom line. Right? The bottom line. Either it's true or it's not true. Yeah, whatever. It's not an argument. Now, the person's going to say, I think it's anti-women, I think it's this, I think it's that. Is that desecration of God's name if I answer them? No. They have a problem with what the Torah says. It's not my problem. Yeah? If they want explanation, okay. If they don't want explanation, they just keep making fun. So, I don't need to put another hole in my head. I got enough. Got enough aggravation in life. I don't need any more. So what do? So you don't have the conversation. Finish. Even if you get hammered, it's unpleasant. I agree. It's unpleasant. So, but the evil inclination can beat you down. That's the point. The evil inclination can say, see, if it's not true, you're trying to keep things, you're going to fail anyway. Come the month of Elul, you're going to take on things, you're never going to change. It's going to be the same thing over and over again. Yeah, the evil inclination is very good at what he does. Doesn't need me to agree. Very, very good. But you got to be strong. You got to have confidence. You got to believe 100%, no question about it, what I'm doing is right. Now, does everything come out the way it should? That's a different issue. It's a different issue. The greater the person, the greater fight against them. My rabbis had many of them. People putting things out against him, ripping up his books. I mean, crazy. People are nuts. He just laughs. He says, I can't wait to get all their mitzvahs in the next world. Don't even worry about it. We get all upset, all uptight. People said things, this, that. People are nothing. They're nothing. You have to have a shoulder on your head. You got to feel good about what you do. Doesn't mean you blow it off and say, I made this mistake, I can just blow it off. That doesn't mean that. We have what to work on. We have a lot to work on. But you feel good about yourself. If you don't feel good about yourself, it's, that's the whole point here. If you don't feel good about yourself, how can honor other people? How can you show honor to others? Someone's going to say, it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier. Right? To honor, respect others. But if you don't love yourself, why? It's a lot, I would agree again. I would agree and say it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to help other people and fix other things than fix yourself. That's true. That is definitely true. Give all the best advice in the world, and you yourself don't take your own advice. Right? You don't live up to your own standards. Yeah, that's also a problem. But we don't want to destroy ourselves in the process. That's a very easy thing to do. Do as I say, not as I do. That's wrong. Right? Again, doesn't mean we're perfect, by any stretch. But I would agree also the fact that, not there with your own problems and your own issues. It's a lot easier to help others and forget about what's going on at home. True. But we said you can't be out there trying to save lives and then your own life is a disaster. Right? And there are people like that. They're helping the world, they're not helping at home. And their home life's a disaster. Everyone looks at this person, oh, look, he's saving lives, doing this, doing that, unbelievable. And what is his home life like? His kids hate him. Right? They despise him, never home, never does anything. And everyone thinks, oh, look, it's in the media, this, that. His kids think he's a schlep, he doesn't do anything. Doesn't love us, he loves the fame. Fame! He gets the adrenaline. That's what makes the person tick. But what about at home? Can that happen? Oh, sure it can happen. If you're not careful, it can for sure happen. right? No one's life is bigger than their families. It's not. You hear about, great rabbis, they made time for the family. And if they didn't have time, their family knew they were there for them. They were, speak to them when they needed to, whatever. But, other people said they made mistakes. They made mistakes. They ate quick meals at home, went out to learn at the expense of their kids. Doesn't mean the kids sometimes they feel they love them, but they weren't there. That's a problem. Nobody's perfect here. Nobody's perfect. We have to work hard. You have to feel, I would think you have to feel good about yourself. Right? Right. On the one hand, if you don't feel good about yourself and you feel miserable and crummy, how can you help others? On the other hand, it's easy to help others because then you have to work on yourself. I'm saying if someone really feels bad about themselves, not going to help others either, in general. They won't be able to do it. It's too hard. Right? It's too painful. Someone asked, it's true that Aristotle realized there's only one true God. I don't know if he realized that. There's a major difference between Aristotle, the Rambam, and others. He never believed in God. His God couldn't do anything. His God was mechanical. He had no power outside of certain things. I don't know if we really believe in one God or not. Listen, the Greeks, they believed in multiple gods. Multiple gods. But his God had no power. Right? His God was subjected to all kinds of other things. Mechanical, as I would call it. Couldn't do anything outside himself. Docile, doesn't interact in history. Doesn't interfere, that was the word. Doesn't interfere in history. So God does nothing. Right? They really believe in one God? I don't know. Not sure. That's what I would say on that. Someone asked, non-Jews obligated to rebuke non-Jews. Interesting. I got this question before, a different form, and that is, are non-Jews, non-Jews allowed to rebuke Jews? That's a problem. That's definitely a problem. It'd be better, it'd be easier for non-Jews to rebuke non-Jews. But remember one thing, Jews do not have an obligation to proselytize non-Jews to keep their mitzvahs. We have no obligation, even though how's a non-Jew going to know how to keep the Noahide laws if they don't come to us, right? So there's a mitzvah to reach out to other Jews, to secular Jews. Because there's a mitzvah because the Torah says, God Israel, Ravens, that was there. We're all intertwined. Jews are intertwined. If Jews are intertwined, doesn't mean Jews and non-Jews are intertwined. It says I have to look out for my brother. Non-Jew is not my brother. Who wants to convert, he can be my brother. Right? So I've had someone hammer me and say we should be out there putting up posters all over the churches and everywhere else, teaching the Noahide laws. That's not my job. It was a job of doing this, trying to save a secular Jew or, bringing a non-Jew out of Christianity. My obligations to a Jew, no question about it. My obligations to a Jew. If a non-Jew comes and says, I want to learn, teach me this or whatever, okay. Right? Obligation to reach out to them? No. Right? Absolutely not. So now the question is, can non-Jews, are they obligated to rebuke non-Jews? Right? Jews have an obligation. The Torah says, rebuke your people. Right? The Torah says, book of Leviticus, chapter 19, you have an obligation to rebuke your people. Amisecha, your people. That mean I have an obligation to rebuke non-Jews? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I can come out against them. I can say they're heretics, this and that. I don't have an obligation to rebuke them. Right? So now the question is, should a non-Jew rebuke? Are they obligated to rebuke non-Jews? No. Why would I say they're not obligated? Because who says the non-Jew's obligation is to try and bring non-Jews into the fold? To be Noahides? Who says that? I don't know anywhere it says it. Can they? That's a different issue. Obligated? No. They're not obligated. They can. They certainly can. Right? I think a lot of times it's going to be a waste of time, but, they certainly can. I don't think there's any question. Can non-Jews try to be makar non-observant Jews? They could. Nothing wrong with it. It's interesting. Let's say you have a Jew by choice. They have a tremendous power. A Jew by choice, because they choose they want to be Jewish. They can have a power, on secular Jews. Why would a non-Jew want to convert? Right? Someone asked me that question. A family member asked me this question. So I said, we can ask another question. Why would a secular Jew want to be an Orthodox Jew? Like, okay, that's a good question. So I said, there are people out there searching for truth. Searching for truth. So this person looked me straight in the face and said, come on, like, get real. They couldn't imagine for the life of them a secular Jew would want to look into Judaism and become religious. They could probably hear by a non-Jew to a certain extent, but a Jew want to become more religious? Doesn't make any sense. Right? So can they try and be makar and bring other Jews to Torah mitzvahs? Why not? Nothing wrong with it. And again, it's their obligation, no, but there's definitely nothing wrong with it. And a lot of time, a person has family members not religious, let's say a Jew, even if they have a family member that is religious, they're not going to go to them for answers, usually. Usually they have to hear the same thing from someone else. I mean, I've heard people speak about it and say, no, a family member can have a lot of influence. A lot of times, let's say a person's the youngest in the family, they're not going to listen. They're the youngest, why should they listen? They remember you when you were 5 years old, when you were 10 years old, whatever. Right? Usually comes from someone on the outside. Usually, doesn't have to, but I would say that's usually the case. But it is interesting. You could have a non-Jew come to Judaism, or even not, become a Noahide. Could they have meaningful conversation with secular Jews? Sure. They could ask, okay, so if you're so into this, why don't you convert? Right? Right? Who said you have to convert? No one says you have to convert. Right? You want to learn about it, this, that, it's great, but no one says you have to convert. But it can have a tremendous power. You can have a tremendous amount of power. Someone here says, I debate people that are off the derech, i.e., they left Judaism. Right? I feel it's a waste of time. Yeah, could be. Could very well be. Could be very, because they're where are they holding right now? They're in pain. They're in pain. They left the community, but probably ostracized in different ways and from the family and difficulties. They don't want to hear. They want to live the life the way they want. They know about Shabbos. They know about Cholent. They know about other things. They don't want. So sometimes the best thing to do is just be there whenever they need you. Just give a lending hand. Confronting them directly. They're not looking for answers. They think they found their answer. And by the way, a lot of these people are miserable because they don't fit in. They've quote unquote been indoctrinated. Now they have to get rid of all this indoctrination and live in the real world, quote unquote. It's hard. If they've heard so many lectures about how bad the secular world is and this and that, and now they're embracing it, it's kind of, major contradiction. So, some people say, yeah, it's liberating, it's this and that, but what do they have? And there's a good percentage of people that leave that come back. There is a good percentage. Some don't. Sometimes it's like talking to a brick. I got plenty of people, they weren't religious at all. I'm still not religious. I may never be religious. Okay. Talking to them is like talking to a brick. Same thing. You can speak about anything else except religion, right? That's like being open-minded. Speak about anything else except that. So like, okay. Try and have a connection if possible. And, maybe something will jolt them. I don't know. Maybe not. But I think it's harder for people to think they know what they have. In other words, someone who grew up religious or, whatever the case is. It doesn't matter. A person can come from, the Hasidic world, down to Orthodox world, in the non-Orthodox world, so to speak. So you take people like that, they heard everything. Kept kosher, they went to synagogue, they, and they end up going off. Now, it can happen for a lot of different reasons, a number of different reasons, but they're very hard to reach. Very, very hard to reach. What they need more than anything else is love. That's what they need. Even if it's hard. There are stories of mothers go with their daughters to, have them go shopping for things they would never wear in a million years. But, they still have this, this connection. They want to still have this connection. Now, that's hard. That's painful. I don't think there's any question. Some people would say, no, you don't do that. You got to be strong. You say, okay, you want to do it by yourself. I can't be part of that. Other people would say no. Right? Depends on the relationship. For some people, they won't be able to do it. It's too hard. It's too painful. All of a sudden now, this person's going to be wearing, ripped jeans and shorts and this and that, on your bill, so to speak. And, nose rings and who knows what. And that's painful to see. That's very painful to see. Right? But a person should, unless the situation is so unbearable, and that person have an influence on your other kids, you never, ever throw a child out of the house. Unless it's like so unbearable. And they have an influence on other kids. In general. Right? In general. But it's hard. It's hard to see. Very hard to see. Right? It's very painful. But a lot of times these people are not looking for answers. They are not looking for answers. They want to be left alone. They want to do what they want, and they want you to respect what they do. So, you have to leave the door open. You have to leave communication open. If not, you won't have a chance to try and bring them back. Somebody, and again, it's easier said than done. That's all I'm going to say. It's easier said than done. Because it's painful. It's painful to see. Because that person's in pain, but, sometimes they just have to get hammered in, until they see what their true path is, right? And there are people that do come back. I'm not saying everybody does, but then they get the secular world and they get lost in the secular world also. Someone says, can a non-Jew teach? There's a lot of people trying to do their own thing. It's confusing. Yeah, I'm going to say it like this. You got to be careful. You got to be careful. There are a lot of well-meaning people out there. And, they think they're doing the right thing. Problem is, they're not coming with a lot of knowledge. Coming with some knowledge. They listen to other people also. They're coming with some knowledge. Right? You got to be careful. You definitely have to be careful. And what they may be seeing may be true. Could be. See someone making the same type of videos every week. I watch them. Right? Just bashing Christians and this. Okay, that's what they want to do. When I take them serious about other things, they say no. I mentioned this before. Someone butchers every Hebrew word and they quote something from the Code of Jewish Law, which I'm not going to deny that's what the Code of Jewish Law says, but it's in context. And they never lived in a Jewish community, so they don't know what goes on. So they say, yeah, but that's what the Code of Jewish Law says. I agree, but what's the context? Now, obviously, they don't know the context because they can't read Hebrew. And they never learned properly. So they couldn't look it up. Right? But someone showed me something and he said, is this very true? And I said, no. And they said, yeah, it doesn't make sense because of this, that, and the other thing. I said, you're right. 100%. But, I'm not saying this person's an authority on anything by any stretch. Yeah, but it's a problem. People make all kinds of videos, all kinds of things. Yell and scream, rant, this, that. They should keep the mouth shut. They should really learn. Why are you making videos anyway? I know people out there, they write on blogs and other things. Some things are very therapeutic. Okay. I'm not going to deny that. It's therapeutic. A lot of people coming out of Christianity have an axe to grind. I came out of, conservative Judaism. I have an axe to grind. Okay. But if you're in the process of conversion, I wouldn't be blogging every day. I'd be focused on what I need to learn. You want to do it on the side, a little bit here, a little bit there, fine. Right? Again, another one of my pet peeves. I see people do this all the time. It's a certain stage people get to. They want to show the light, show where the Christians are wrong. Very good. Okay, so you're gonna write things every day. Isn't there so much to learn about Judaism? What are you writing every day for? Right, once a week. Right? Give you 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day maximum. Should be writing this stuff. What are you wasting your time for? It's a waste of time. Some people say it's very therapeutic. Okay. Right? You don't know. You didn't come out of it. Okay. Right? I also know what I did when I was younger. And I came to the conclusion Judaism was true. I tried to contact people, this and that. People weren't interested. Okay. So I kept it in mind. I listened to a lot of things. I sat and I learned and I learned and I learned. Until I finally, went out and whatever. Decided to teach, but not before I was ready. Always, guidelines that my Rebbe gave me. Okay. Very true. But, I was not the desire to save the world. I couldn't save my own family. Nobody wanted. So what am I going to do? To try and hammer them this way, that way, the other way. So good. So I ended up writing about eventually. Writing about my whole life story. Okay. That's when I had free time. It took me a while to do it. Over many years. Yeah. That's when I had free time. The other time I was learning. So why aren't people learning? I want to ask the question, why are people not learning? Why are they wasting time doing this? So someone's going to say, it's therapeutic. Why do I care it's therapeutic? It's irrelevant whether it's therapeutic or not. Spend a little bit of time doing it. The other time you should be learning. That should be your goal. Right? So, if non-Jews, it's interesting. Non-Jews have truth. You don't necessarily believe them. Right? Secular things, you can believe them. You have to know, what they're saying. Right? That doesn't mean they can't teach if they have knowledge. I've seen a lot of people without knowledge. That's the problem. They don't have knowledge. They think they have knowledge. They say, who do you think you are? I've been learning for 30 years, for goodness sakes. I know a little bit. Whatever people want to say about me, I know a little bit. Yeah. And I know that if you don't sit and you plug away day in and day out, I wouldn't listen to a word they say. Not one word. Because they don't have the knowledge. It's like my Rebbe ingrained in my head. You want to go out and teach and this and that? I'll give you one night a week. So I'll give you one night a week, get it out of your system. Work with secular Jews, this, that, one night a week. The other time you have to sit and learn it day and night. He was right. He was right. Now, if I wouldn't have listened, I would have gone out. Would I have been successful? I could have been successful. I wouldn't be who I am today, no question. But I sat and learned for years and years. These people can't say that. Definitely can't say that. Right? So you're right. You got to be careful who you listen to. For example, I don't listen to Orthodox rabbis, right? You're also within that group, you have to be careful who you listen to. Not everyone you should listen to. Depends who. Definitely depends who. Doesn't say in the Medrash that King David was a prophet. King David, we hold that when he wrote the book of Psalms, it was definitely divine inspiration, no question about it. Right? No question. No question it was divine. No question there was divine inspiration. That is, that's the question. Was he, was he a prophet? That's a different issue, right? So the Rambam says that in the Guide for the Perplexed, that there he brings out a whole bunch of levels of prophecy, right? But he holds that King David was a prophet, right? He holds he was a prophet, right? And that would make sense. They reached the high level of prophecy, King David and Solomon. They reached the top level. They didn't reach the top level per se, but they reached the very high level of prophecy. It's commentary in the Mishna, he says that as well. So it's interesting in the Moreh Nevuchim, Guide for the Perplexed, he seems to say not that way, right? So, there's a question over here. There's a question whether, there are different levels here, different levels of prophecy. No question. So some say you got some prophecy from someone else, right? That he received the prophecy from another prophet. Some want to say, others want to say no, it was true prophecy, right? It seems that he was, right? And it would make sense because a lot of things he says, is that is the case, right? And it says as well that God said to him, per se, so it's God said to David, right? So that shows prophecy, right? That would definitely show prophecy. So I think it's a question what level of prophecy at, right? But it seems that he did. Seems that it definitely did have prophecy. If a person's trying to learn Yiddish, wants to convert Ashkenazi in Israel, doesn't matter. Yiddish is irrelevant. If you want to learn, it's a good thing. Does the person have to? No, definitely not. Again, knowing Yiddish is a good thing. The person have an obligation to learn it for conversion anywhere? No, not even Hebrew. I mean, you have to know Hebrew to read blessings, be able to read from a prayer book, follow a service, this, that. But, do you have to speak Hebrew like an Israeli? Nope, definitely not. It's good to learn conversational Hebrew if you want. I think there are a lot of people more interested in learning biblical Hebrew, be able to read what the Torah says, understand what the Torah says. But is it a good thing if you want to learn it? You could. I wouldn't necessarily. I would say if you have time to learn it, good, not at the expense of other things. Right? I would say blessings more important, Shabbos more important, kashrus more important, many things. Many things. Just going through the parsha every week, going through Rashi and some of the commentaries more important than that. Yeah, that's like on a scale of 1 to 10, it's at the bottom. It's way at the bottom. But if a person wants to do it, I'm not saying you can't do it. You can do it. You can learn it. I think there are many other things you need to learn first. Someone asked, can you get along by speaking English in Israel? Depends where. There are certain places that, a person goes through Mapei Shemesh, not far from me. The main thing they speak is in English, right? A lot of English speakers there. There are certain communities that have a lot, that have a good number of English speakers. Can you get away with it? Yeah. Yeah, it depends where you are. There are a lot of places you wouldn't get away with it, right? But there are some that you would. I mean, where I live, I would say, let's say 25-30% English speakers. I mean, I also speak to plenty of Hebrew speakers, so, but, English speakers sort of, hang out with each other. It's common language. But yeah, there are places you can find. I'm not going to say it's a whole lot, but there are definitely places that you can do that. You can get along by speaking English. The old joke. Someone who speaks 3 languages, is trilingual. Someone who speaks 2 languages is bilingual. Someone who speaks 1 language, American. A lot of truth to that. Americans only speak 1 language. If you don't understand English, they just scream louder, right? They just yell. It's like to make sure that that you understand, right? It doesn't normally, you can do that to an Israeli. It doesn't help. They don't speak English. They don't speak English. You yell at them, right? It doesn't help. Yeah, so you get away with it. You can definitely, in certain communities, you get away with it for sure, right? Beit Shem is one of them for sure. You can get, there are other places, other pockets of places, other way. Har Nof in Jerusalem, also many English speakers. It's very expensive to live there, right? But many English speakers there, as well. So yeah, there are pockets of places, but I wouldn't say too many. I definitely wouldn't say too many. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to stop here. I do this every Saturday, 2:30 Eastern Time, 9:30 Israel time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Mark Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com, Beyond Orthodox Conversion to Judaism on YouTube. There I get videos on ethics of our fathers, Pirke Avos, Q&As, Torah portion of the week, Book of Leviticus, chapter 17. This week, not going to be any class. I'm going to be away till the end of the week. So anyone has any questions, you can send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN@gmail.com, which have a good beginning of the day, middle of the day, or end of the day, depending on